Hi everyone, I hope you are doing just well. Today I wanted to get on here and I wanted to make a video about are Mormons Christians? Um, and I'm doing this video outside today of this temple. I mean, look at this amazing temple. Um, it's it's kind of smaller than our other temples um, because we're in small town Leeds, Utah. We don't need. There's not that many of us, so we just have this small little temple. But no, I'm just kidding. This is just a cool little kiln, is what it's called, the kiln, that I found, and I decided I would shoot the video here. But um, to be more serious, I did want to talk about this because this has been a big discussion I've been seeing on the internet lately. I've seen it on TikTok. I see a lot of it on Twitter or X. And so I wanted to give my perspective on this, and I wanted to start by giving a little bit of background and my stance on this before I kind of discuss both sides, because I'm not going to just look at one side. I'm going to kind of discuss. Oh, there's a dragonfly. Look at that. I'm going to discuss both sides and see why both point of views kind of get um, people on either side. So, a little bit of background for me is I did grow up Mormon or LDS. The church is officially called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So if you've heard people correct someone when they say Mormon, it's because that's what the church has always been called. Um, Mormon was always just kind of a nickname from the Book of Mormon, which is the book the Latter-day Saints believe in. But the church has always been called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But I don't actually mind the term Mormons, but and I know that that's the more widely name that they're known as from non-members. So that's what I use to put in the title or whatever, to get as many views as I can, But so, anyways, I grew up in it, and I stayed in it until I was about probably like 16 or 17 is when I probably first started having troubles when I was in ninth grade, so about like 15 years old, um, where I kind of just stopped caring and I became a little bit rebellious, and I was a little bit of a troublemaker in school and stuff like that. But uh, and then after high school is where things really changed, and um, about a year after high school, I got into meditation, and then I got into all kinds of different spiritual beliefs, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all kinds of spiritual beliefs. I mean, if you could look inside my brain and look back and see all the different things I was looking into and believing, you would be mind blown. So I've really been through it, and I've really um, and to be honest, it's always been something I've been very passionate about. Um, Ever since I was about 19, is religion and just the spiritual in general. Like, I just, something hit me at some point when I was 19, where I just knew that there was more to life, and that um, I was not an atheist. I didn't necessarily maybe believe in God at that time, but I knew that there was something more. Um, and so I went through all that, and then from basically from age 19 until I was, what do you say, 23 or 24, my life had just kind of gotten really bad. This whole spiritual thing that I was in kind of promised me, or at least I felt it did, that I was on this trajectory where I was growing spiritually and I was becoming who I was meant to be, finding my purpose, all these things. And some of the things were good. I'm not totally saying everything is bad in other spiritual beliefs, but um, for myself, my life had just totally fallen apart. Um, and um, and I kind of look back now and I see how throughout the whole journey, although I wasn't Mormon anymore, I wasn't Christian at all. Um, Jesus Christ kept coming up. I mean, everywhere I went, I couldn't get away from this Jesus Christ guy. I mean, I swear to you, I went traveling in a van during this whole spiritual thing, and I remember one time I went and I was doing drugs, smoking weed, and um, I walked behind this random dumpster in California to go smoke some weed. Like, I'm trying to go to the farthest place away from Mormonville, California. Um, although I know there's a lot of Mormons in California too, but uh, I'm in LA. That's probably the least of the Mormons. Um, and I go behind this dumpster and there's this homeless lady crying, and I start talking to her to be nice. Um, and she wants to smoke some weed, and so I give her some weed to smoke, and we got into a conversation, and I told her that I grew up Mormon, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a Mormon," and I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "Oh, you don't think it's true?" And this, I'm telling you, this lady was homeless, and uh, she was definitely had some kind of mental issues. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that she was totally just like not able to talk and didn't know anything. She was fine to talk to. I was having a real conversation with her, but I mean, I knew she had some problems, probably from drugs or whatever she'd gone into in her time being homeless. But she got so serious, and she says, "Oh, of course it's true. Of course it's true." And here she was doing all these things against the Mormon. I mean, she was asking to have sex with me. She was smoking the weed, so she wasn't following it, but she knew it was true. She couldn't deny that she knew it was true. And so um, I know I got a little bit far into that, and that maybe is giving my position away about the church being true, but I want to discuss not just that it's true, I want to discuss, are Mormons Christian? And um, I guess really it would come down to, what do you believe a Christian is? Right? That's the first thing you would have to know in having this conversation, is what is a Christian? And um, to me, and it's not just to me because I'm making up a definition. This is just based on using logical reason. I would say the simple answer is someone who follows or believes in Jesus Christ. Right? That's what, to me, that's what you would think without looking in a dictionary. What Christian means is to be a follower of Jesus Christ. And I know some Christians would argue that, well, yeah, but Mormons follow a false Jesus, so that's why they're not Christian, because they're not following the real Jesus Christ. But um, the thing I would argue, or I guess, just bring up in discussion is, I don't know, do they follow a different Jesus? And some would say, yes, they believe Jesus was the brother of Satan, or they believe that Jesus went to the Americas. And people who only believe in the Bible would say none of that stuff is in the Bible. And I think it's a fair argument, but I still don't think that means that Mormons believe in a different Jesus, because Mormons also believe in the Jesus who um, was born in Bethlehem and lived a perfect life, and uh, raised and died on the cross and raised from the dead 3 days later. And so we believe in all of that. So I don't think you can say that we believe in a different Jesus. Now, you might say that we um, believe in things about Jesus that aren't true. That would be a fine claim. You know, I'm not going to force anyone to believe that Jesus went to the Americas. I'm not going to convince anyone that there was a premortal life, and in that premortal life, we were all brothers and sisters, including Jesus, including Lucifer. Um, but but I am also. It's like talking to an atheist. I'm not going to convince an atheist that Jesus uh, was put on the cross and then rose from the dead, because nobody's ever risen from the dead before either. So I mean, uh, it, it's just like that. I mean, yeah, a Christian talking to an atheist, you're not going to convince that atheist that he rose from the dead. Just like a Mormon's not going to convince a Christian that all the other things. But it doesn't mean it's a different Jesus. It's the same Jesus, because we're talking about the same person. We're talking about the Jesus who was born in Bethlehem at that period in time, and was recorded by his followers: Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, all the Gospels. And so it's not a different Jesus. You may believe again that we believe wrong things about Jesus. We maybe Mormons are saying things Jesus did that he didn't, right? You can make that argument, but it's not a different Jesus. And so that's why I think, just with that simple point, you can't say that Mormons aren't Christian, because they do believe in that Jesus Christ. Do they believe that he did other things than what just the Bible says? Yes. But it's the same Jesus. And so um, like I said, I know I'm not going to convince anyone with anything. Um, but just from my own experience, kind of going back, I'm not just some normal Mormon boy. And I know anyone can say that, because everyone is having their own. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Everyone's having their own individual experience. I truly believe in that. I believe everyone is their own individual person, and that's an amazing thing, because we all have different gifts and abilities. Obviously, my ability is to speak, because I'm making such a great video, right, with my words. But just kidding. Um, but the point I'm making is that I grew up Mormon. I went into all these other spiritual things, and then I found Jesus. And I found Jesus outside of the Mormon church. I was not going to Mormon church. I was reading the New Testament, and I remember vividly just having an experience with the Lord Jesus Christ. And I had had experiences with the Lord Jesus Christ before, but sadly they didn't turn me to go follow him. I before had experiences with Jesus where he literally saved me from demonic forces inside of my head. Like, I was literally being tormented by demons, and this happened twice within the span of like 1 or 2 years. And I just called on Jesus. Jesus, help me. That's all I said, with faith. Jesus, help me. And like this, light came into me, and the demons vanished. Like, it was a mystical thing that I cannot explain. Um, but sadly, those experiences didn't turn me to Jesus. You might listen to that and be like, how do you not turn to Jesus after that? Well, I don't know. I'm kind of a dummy. But um, but where I really turned to Jesus is where my life had gotten really bad, and I was really starting to actually question things. I'm like, okay, these spiritual beliefs I don't think are really helping me. And um, and Jesus had always just been in the back of my mind. I could never get rid of this guy Jesus, man. Like, there's something different about him. And that's what it was, is there is something different about Jesus Christ. Um, and I remember that night, um, just realizing that there was no one like Jesus. There's no one who's kind like he is. He and the fact that we've never even met him in this life, um, we just read stories about him. But I just know he's so kind because of the things he did in his life, and you can just feel him. You can. He is the light of the world. He is the light of the world. Where kindness is, where goodness is, that is the light of Christ. And um, and I came to realize that. I came to realize that outside of being in the Mormon Church. So um, I don't think that Mormons worship a different Jesus, because I found Jesus honestly kind of rebelling against the church. I was At that point in time, I was kind of actually watching anti-Mormon things. There's this podcast called I think it's called the Mormon podcast. What is it? Mormon Stories, and there's a few others too that I was watching, and um, I didn't want the church to be true, and so um, I had those experiences with Jesus, and I really felt who he was, uh, and it was a relationship with Jesus. There was no religion involved, but um, as I've kind of been progressing, um, I have been kind of like based on questions that I have, I'm like, well, maybe there is a church. Like, what am I believe in this Jesus guy, but now what? What do I do? Like, not that I have to do something to save myself, but like, I mean, what do I do with my life? You know what I mean? Well, why am I here? I accept Jesus. I know he is who he says he is, but then what do I do? Um, and I'm like, okay, well, a lot of people say you should go to church. The the Bible talks about churches. Well, what church do I go to? There's all these different denominations, and I live in Utah. Someone might live in this place or that place. Like, what church do we go to? Like, and um, it's just like, okay, this Mormon church is actually really organized, and it's really easy to find one and go and visit. I mean, on their things it says visitors welcome. Um, while when I was considering going to other, because I wanted to go to other churches outside of the Mormon church, I wanted to go to just a Christian church. It was just like, I'm not saying they're not welcoming, but it was just like, I don't know, like I just show up and go. I don't know. It doesn't feel like normal. While the Mormon churches, I've always felt like, oh, visitors welcome. Literally anyone can walk in and go. And it's easy to find. You don't even have to ask someone to go. You can just kind of show up, and if you show up, no one's even going to know that it's your first time going. I mean, maybe unless you wear something kind of different, but um, oh, there's like a bird or something over there, a squirrel, I think. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to say. Um, I understand the arguments from people outside of the Mormon Church. They they say adding on to the gospel. They say, how does God have a God? Um, but those are all things that have complicated answers, and it's not necessarily um, what Mormons actually believe. Um, there's a lot of things that we just don't actually know, um, and um, and there's also scriptures in the Bible that do kind of point one way and then point another way. Um, so um, this is just my journey so far, but just based on this topic, I'm still um, searching myself. Like, I'm by no means like a Mormon. Uh, the ones that go to church every Sunday, believe in it. Um, I've just barely started getting back in. And I'm honestly, if I'm being truly honest, I'm not certain even on it. Uh, but when it came to the topic, are Mormons Christian or not Christian? Um, I, I felt like they are Christian because of the people I've met and because of my own experience with it. And um, but I would also say on the other side, if it's not true, if the Mormon Church is not true, then maybe they're not Christian, because based on the claims that they make, if it's not true, then um, there's a lot of lying involved, because the claims made by Joseph Smith and of the church are so bold that they're either true or they're evil. That's what I always say to people, and what I think. And I don't mean to be like um, contentious or anything like that, but I'm just like, yeah, if Joseph Smith said he saw God, he saw Jesus as two separate beings, um, where most Christians believe that they're one. Um, so all these bold claims, and then they said all other churches are an abomination. This is the true one. With those bold claims, I believe it's got to be true, or it's got to be like evil, demonic deception. And I know that's crazy, but um, looks like my microphone died right at the end there. So, but I was just wrapping up. The last thing I just wanted to include in this video was um, just talking about how the church for me, it just it was different, and it had what I'd been looking for, which was authority. Um, because I'd felt authority from God, and I feel authority from Jesus, that he has authority on earth and in the heavens. And I believe that he's given authority in his church. And it all leads back to him and then to the Father. And so I just watched conference this weekend, and I encourage anyone who's curious about the church to watch conference, to watch these leaders speak, and to see how they speak with authority, and to see how they speak about modern day things and struggles, and and they speak with that authority, and they speak with that guidance and with that truth. And I really recommend you guys to watch the talk that I watched. I only watched one, and it was the last talk of conference, and it was by um, Elder Oaks, who's assumed to be the next prophet of the church. Um, to watch his talk, and uh, and to also watch the and listen to the prayer after, and um, just to see how they speak with authority. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. But that's it. That's my testimony. I wanted to share it, and I would love to hear what any of you guys think, whether you're Christian, atheist, Mormon, anything. I don't have a problem with people disagreeing or sharing their thoughts. I'm very open minded to it. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you.